What's up, guys? Spider-Gwen, Across the Spider-Verse. This is one that I'm interested in because I have another one from Marvel Legends, and as far as I could tell, that's a whole new buck. And I'm not talking just a whole new buck for Spider-Gwen, I mean for Marvel Legends in general. Let's talk about this one. So, starting out, Spider-Gwen is one of my all-time favorite concepts in the entirety of all Spider-Man. Yes, I'm not kidding. Like, they've done a lot in Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, things of that nature. A lot. Okay? And over the years, I've seen some really cool stuff. We saw Black Suit Spider-Man, which then later on was basically retconned into a version which became one of the coolest villains in the history of Spider-Man, which became Venom. Awesome. We saw 2099, a future Spider-Man. We saw the Ultimate Spider-Man, which was really cool, which then bled into a storyline that actually created Miles, which led into a whole new Superman. Super Spider-Man. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. We saw the Spider-Man multiverse. We've seen Spider-Man that can fly. We've seen the metal armor Spider-Man. Remember that really cool episode in the 90s series? It was a couple of episodes, to be fair, where they actually had a type of Spider-Verse where there was a bunch of different Spider-Men. That was amazing and actually led to one of my favorite Spider-Man things ever, which was the spider armor, which is still one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man looks that has ever existed. From that point, also, we've seen other things like Ben Reilly. And I'm talking about when Ben Reilly was Spider-Man and when he was Scarlet Spider. Very cool concepts. Spider-Man has proven to be immensely versatile. In fact, Spider-Girl comes to mind. Not Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman feels like a different thing to me that somehow got a spider name and doesn't necessarily fit the mold of all the other spider things. But I digress. But well, I guess it depends on what one you're talking about. Regardless, Spider-Girl, however, the daughter of Peter Parker that then becomes a Spider-Man-esque character, very cool and worked out very well and looks terrific. And this concept works over and over and over and over and over. There are not many characters that you could do this with. Some characters have immense versatility. Immense versatility. And their power is incredibly malleable. That is very hard to do. How many times have we seen them try to step down from Bruce Wayne Batman? And it doesn't work. Every time you say to yourself, a Batman is a very malleable product, but the mantle isn't. Batman is Bruce Wayne. When Batman is Dick Grayson, there's something not quite right about it. When Batman is Logan Paul, there's something not quite right about it. I think that was his name, if I remember right. Azrael? That's who I'm talking about. During the Nightfall storyline. When Batman became Tim Drake, something not quite right about it. When Batman is Damian Wayne, something not quite right about it. It doesn't seem to fit. Batman is Bruce Wayne. And no matter how many times we retell the story, even if we tell a single standoff story, like when the Tim Drake Batman came forward and we saw what would have happened if Tim Drake would have had to have become Batman and how the mantle would have essentially corrupted him and blah, blah, blah. During that storyline, it's fine for a one-off, but you don't want that to be the common trend. But Spider-Man is one of those few characters that can step outside of that. His mold in general is malleable. It's a mantle that can be passed on as long as there's a storyline that allows a person to have spider powers, such as Miguel, who has spider powers, who's 2099 Spider-Man and is completely accepted by most of the fan base. We have a clone who became Spider-Man. It was for the most part a huge part, an accepted part of Spider-Man mythology, not only being Spider-Man, but being his own character in both times. He was Scarlet Spider, became Spider-Man, became Scarlet Spider, and he's been accepted as both ideas. That's been completely acknowledged in the canon. This is the kind of character that can pass the mantle, can pass the idea. It's incredible. And you don't see that very often. But because of that, because Spider-Man is one of those rare things that can do it, one of those very rare characters that can do it, they've done it a lot. But to me, there was none more interesting than when they said, what if Gwen Stacy had gone to that science show? And what if she had got bit? And from that point, the entirety of that story is just off the wall. And for some reason, it works so well. Like it does. It's one of my absolute favorite concepts in all of Spider-Man, is Gwen Stacy became the Spider-Woman, the Ghost Spider, the Spider-Girl, the Spider-Gwen. Guys, I was immensely impressed. And I don't mean by this movie. I'm sure this movie's great. I haven't seen it. I like the first movie, so I don't think for a second that I would not enjoy the next one. But I read that comic book during Spider-Verse. And I was so intrigued that when they announced an actual comic series, I bought every single issue of Spider-Gwen, and then started buying the issues of Ghost Spider, and got pretty far into that before I most recently, in fact, there was a video on here, if I remember right, where I talked about being done with single issues and kind of moving on from comic books because it kind of got to me in a certain way over time. It was during that I really got into the whole Spider-Gwen thing. And I started to really like certain aspects of the Spider-Gwen character quite a bit. There are certain things I would have preferably handled very differently. Like it would have been neat to see her universe in basically the same context as the universe that we have here in the 616. But if the only real difference was that Parker did not go to the science exhibit that day, or he went with Gwen, and Gwen got bit, not him. And then the whole thing turns out slightly different because of that. And I think I would have liked to have seen that play out in a very different way, but with the same context that some of the same bad guys would have still kind of came into being, but maybe in different ways. I don't know. I just think it would have been really cool. Basically what I'm saying is I think the potential for Spider-Gwen isn't even tapped yet. We have the Spider-Gwen that runs in the comics. And we have the Spider-Gwen that is currently running in the series of movies. And both of them are different characters. They are not sharing the same background, not from what I can tell. And then there's a third Spider-Gwen, which I don't think we've even seen yet, which I was talking about just now, where I'd like to see Gwen Stacy, the one that we knew, the one that we were growing up, become Spider-Gwen and then go through that universe, changing certain aspects in the 616 because that personality would be very different and interact very differently with how the Spider-Person would have worked. Kind of like how they did it in the What If when they brought Flash Thompson, and Flash Thompson for some reason was Spider-Man, which was a fantastic storyline, by the way. Anyways, all this aside, if you can't tell, I really love this character. So when I seen it on the shelf, I had to have it. And now we have to open it. Okay, here we are. This is the packaging, of course. And I put these two here because we're going to be talking about them as we go into actually reviewing Spider-Gwen in general. But for the packaging, and I actually talked about this in a previous video, so we're not going to go too far into it here, but I like the fact that they actually brought back the more, I don't know, I feel like this is a classic packaging. I like the fact that we're back to actually having the window packaging. The windowless boxes caused all kinds of problems. I'm not going to go into this again. There'll be an annotation to the video that I talked about all this because there was a big thing where I talked about how I feel like that hit us in a certain way. But I do like the fact that this is not just like windowed, but it's a very classic style of how figures used to come out, and I kind of miss this, and she just fell on the ground. The cross-sell on the back, pretty solid. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to be keeping this. I don't think the artwork blows me away necessarily or anything like that, and if I looked at all this stuff here, she's the only one I want. It's just the way that it is. I really like Spider-Gwen, and it's not that I hate anybody else in this line, but if you got to pick and choose, and my budget for action figures really is only about maybe $100 a paycheck, and that's if I'm really pushing it and I'm really lucky. It very much depends on where all my finances and whatnot settle. So most of the time, that's not even 100% true. Sometimes it's $50 a check. And of course, as we understand, as we've very much been into this hobby for a while now, this hobby tends to be running in a way almost at this point that's even kind of pricing a lot of collectors out of the hobby. And if we're going to argue that, and we definitely could, then you know you got to pick and choose the things that you want. This is the biggest thing from this line that I want. It's the only one that I'm really going to be putting my money towards. But in all, I really thought the packaging was cool. Not something I'm going to save, but cool. Let's open it. So let's give it up. Let's give it up to this Spider-Gwen right here. Let's talk about that right off the bat. You know that I'm in love with this. No ties. They made the plastic coffin. They slipped her in there. And there's none of those ties on the back that we have to cut. None of those are here. Because if she fits, if you're going to go through the process of making the coffin in the first place, make it and stick her in it and just let us pop her out of it. I really don't like all those plastic ties. I'm really happy to see when they're not there. Well, there she is, 100% out of the packaging, and just like I said, I was 100% sure of that, and now I'm 100% sure of that. That's a 100% new buck. And she fell over. Okay, so let's get into this a little bit here. This is a new body. It's a lot leaner. It's a lot taller. Ooh, we lost a lot of focus there. It's a lot leaner. It's a lot taller, right? I do like it, though, as compared to this other buck that I have. And I really think that this one is solid as well. But look at the other Marvel Legends-esque buck right here. This is Spider-Woman, and she's using a more traditional buck from the Marvel Legends line. In fact, I can even go further into the Marvel Legends line, and I could probably pull up one or two more figures. Let me stand up here, and I will grab Rogue. Let me move these two, grab Rogue, bring Rogue down here, bam. These are a couple of the female bucks that we know of from the line. Marvel Legends in general, with Rogue probably being one of the best female bucks that there is, in all honesty. And actually, this character in general, this figure, probably the best Rogue, personally, that I have ever seen in the entirety of the line. I think she's absolutely fantastic. But, that being said, they went out of their way to sculpt whole new bucks for this line. And I mean the whole of the line. If I'm not mistaken, every single one of these characters from Across the Spider-Verse got their own buck. And that is fantastic. She feels very thin, though. Not that that's necessarily a terrible thing. Looks like we've got the T-pose. She feels a little frail right in here, and so I would be careful while you're moving her around and posing her and whatnot. She has decent head turn, all right head turn right there. I wouldn't say that it's perfect by any means whatsoever. She can't look up at all. She can kind of look down, so you're very much stuck, especially if you're going to try to do any photography stuff like what I've been trying to get into and whatnot. There's very little. She's got nice little back bend right here, so you could do like a type of jump and get that nice back bend, but there's almost there's no crunch this way. Her hips, She's got decent right there. Of course, that's fine. She doesn't go back at all in terms of her buttocks. That knee goes all the way up. Could she kick her own butt? She can kick her own butt. That's it. She can kick her own butt. Kick! That's pretty good. Let's talk about the shoulders here real quick. Elbows. Can the elbows go all the way? The elbows can go all the way. That double joint is really fantastic. Straight up, doing that whole headache or whatever. Look, see right there. I just went to move it. I'd say be very careful with these as you move them. That part right there really feels funny to me. These are purposely made skinny so they match the artwork of the new movie, which is fantastic. But I'm already feeling it in the character. I'm already feeling it. It's a little funny. It's a little thin. And it feels it. Like it feels a little frail when you try to move it that way. So just be aware of what you're looking at. She came with 2 open hands, kind of like crawling hands here, and that's fine, but in terms of coming with the crawling hands, I see one slight problem. She got one thwip hand and a closed fist, and so if you're going to try to do any kind of like action figure photography, she's only going to thwip from one hand, so it always limits certain poses that you can do rather than accentuating a bunch of poses you can do. Personally, I would have preferred instead of, and I guess in a perfect world, because we're going to go ahead and say this, we know how this is, in a perfect world we'd have got 2 climbing hands, we'd got 2 fists, and we'd have got 2 thwips. We didn't. That's just the nature of the beast, but it still seems to be a rather solid figure regardless. I'm really digging these shoes, by the way. These right here, I really like that. It's a nice little touch. I really like that on the character in general. We have the tag here. So all her writing information and whatnot is on her thigh right here. So if you're doing poses and you don't want that kind of stuff to show up, we'll either have to actually work on that so that we get the right poses during a swing or something like that. Like I said, you can get that really nice back right there where she's kind of, that's fantastic, by the way, that she can get that back bend. That's so good. That's so good. Let's check out one of the other things that she came with real quick. I want to see the other head. I really like this head here. I really think that's fantastic, and more than likely I'll display her like that because I already have a Spider-Gwen that of course has, you know, the hood and everything, but this head sculpt is really fantastic. I really like it. I wouldn't say buy another one of them so you can just display them both ways. I wouldn't go that far. So let's pop her head off. Of course, we have the bowl right there. That's just normal for her, normal for a lot of these. So we're going to take that off, and we're going to... This seems to be connected. I was wondering about that. This head here, it seems to be connected inside of this, so you can't mess that up, I guess, as you can't lose the hood. That might be a good thing, actually. Pop this head on. It has a nice firm snap to it, and there. We got Spider-Gwen. And let me just see if I can't get something going here. Something simple. There. Just something like that. Just a strong thwip here. Kind of angle her head down a little bit. Put her arm back. There. Just bow. We're posing figures here. Can I get her to stand like that? Her legs are really thin. You're really going to fight with her here. I'm positive that I can get this to work if I play with it for a while. Oh man. Let me move that leg like this maybe. Oh, it's rough. Damn. It really is tough. I can't get it. She might be one of those people that because of the way her body is, she may need a little stand. She may need a little stand. Some more complicated, you'll really have to fight with her to get her in pose. This head isn't terrible, but after playing with her just for that little bitty bit, I'm noticing that I really don't prefer this over this. I feel like that character right there had the stronger face in terms of masked, and the other Spider-Gwen that I just bought definitely looks better with the Gwen Stacy head. This Gwen Stacy head is fantastic. That is really sharp. I really like it. I really do. I just think that's a fantastic face mold. And that's probably what I'm going to end up doing with her and keep this one like this. And if that's the main reason I bought her, I would be fine with that, in all honesty. There we go. Yeah, I would be fine with that. Just, she looks so good. I don't know exactly how I'm going to pose her, how I'm going to put her on the shelf or whatnot, but she just looks great. And I wonder if I could even get like a crossed arms type of thing with the two hands that she came with. I wonder if I could get kind of like an attitude, kind of like a swishback or something, you know, like that, where she's kind of got her thing. I wonder if I could get it, because these aren't bad hands for something like that. If I could get her to grip on, see what I'm saying? I think that it could be done, and I think that it could look good if I just played around with her for a while. I'm sure I'll figure it out. She seems great. She really does. Like I said, you've seen me try to pose her, and there is some flimsiness right here that I really feel like you need to be aware of if you're going to buy one of these, if you're going to hunt one down and buy one. That face is fantastic. And you know, in all honesty, maybe if you could get this head to pop onto a different body you like and it doesn't look awkward, you could almost buy this figure for that head sculpt. Because that head sculpt is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. Though I would say that I don't necessarily feel 100% sold on this one. I don't know why. I don't know if that's just really plain, or if it has to do with the way that I just like this so much that maybe I'm talking myself out of this a little bit. I don't really know. But I really like this one. This is the more from the comic book that I recognized, where she just, that off color and everything that happens with the eyes and the way the hood is more free-flowing, which that could be it too, because I could pull that hood back, I could put that hood down, I could turn that hood to the side, I can kind of create like an effect here with the hood. That really helps the dynamic of that face. This hood is connected to this head, and I think you could probably pop that off. I don't know how much force you'd have to do with it, but then I don't know if you'd be asking for problems later on. You'd have to go through the whole thing of painting the back of the head and fixing it up and everything after you got it popped off. I don't know. But I know that this hood is sealed to this head, and it does limit some of the movement and some of the look in general. But not a terrible figure, all said. So yeah, I think in my case, I'm definitely going to be keeping... Pop the head off here and take that hood, put the hood back so that it actually looks like the hood is kind of fall back across her back. Pop this head back on, which it seems like once that hood in the back is on, she has a lot less movement in her hair and everything like that, because her hair really stops her. Keep in mind about those things that I pointed out right here, because it's definitely a real thing. Okay, it's definitely 100% a real thing. You can feel it. I didn't actually mention she has decent side bend here and there. Actually, that's not terrible. Normally, I don't go into all of that when I talk about figures like this. It's not usually my style to talk about, oh, these move this way and everything. But this was a little different because I wanted to really talk about the buck in general and whether or not this would hurt some of the line moving forward. And the reason I say that is because it's very possible that if they hold on to this buck, if they make this a standard for like smaller girls, right? Because not every girl is built like Rogue. This is a problem that happens when we talk about things like, action figures in general, but definitely Marvel Legends is 100% guilty of reusing the same buck a million times. times. Like a million times. Every character has the exact same body. They made a Spider-Man and they just ran with that buck and every guy has it. And how many times can you repaint the same Cyclops over and over and over again and just keep selling him to us? Case in point, the First Class Cyclops has the exact same buck body as the 1980s Cyclops. Like, I have both of them, they're right up there on the shelf, and I see that all the time. And it's not just him. The 1980s Wolverine has the exact same buck as the 1970s Wolverine, as opposed to the black and gray leadership Wolverine guy. Like, they're all the time they're reusing bucks. Reuse is normal in figures, and you're talking to a guy that buys Motu, so like, who am I to talk about the reuse of bucks? But it is important to discuss the reuse of bucks because I honestly think it's a good idea to have 4 or 5 female bucks and 4 or 5 male bucks, and then it allows you to kind of do different things and have different sizes. Superheroes are not masters of the universe. Superheroes are different. And while most of the time you could claim that, well, superheroes are practically this and this and this, Cyclops is tall and he should be a leaner build. Kind of like Spider-Man, I think, is a little taller and he should have a leaner build. He shouldn't be straight muscles. And then if you're looking at somebody like Logan, they should have a smaller buck body, male body, that's a little more husky built. It should be bigger dude, right? And then if you're looking at the Hulk, you're looking at a big dude. And the same thing goes for women in these lines. I think it's important to distinguish the idea that Rogue, that body buck, works for Rogue, and it works fantastic for Rogue, and it really looks great. This is one of the best figures literally ever released in the entirety of all freaking Marvel Legends. It's fantastic. But if you put that body on Spider-Gwen and it was the same buck, it would not look right to me. It would not look right. I agreed with the idea that she had a different buck. This Spider-Gwen had a different buck than this Rogue, than this Spider-Woman. It was important for them to have different bodies. And if we're, because we know they like to reuse, if they end up reusing this buck for a couple of other girls that are considered to be maybe smaller or younger girls, then we also have to consider the idea that we'll have an awful lot of people coming down the line who will have these very frail arms. It's very possible that this could happen, and we need to be aware of it, that we could be moving in that direction, or we may have to very well speak out and say, look, it's great that this worked out for the Spider-Verse people, but don't use this buck again. It's not going to do us any favors. I'm kind of snapping her out and kind of getting her all set, because I need to be able to pose her onto the shelf and everything like that. And I really think I'm going to do that attitude. If I can get her to cross her arms like that, I think I want that on the shelf. Anyways, that's all I really had to say. Pretty cool figure. Now you have an idea of what these are coming out like if you haven't seen them already. And I'm going to get out of here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.